Audible. Yes, audible.
Okay, okay. So, previous meet, I read from a beautiful part where we saw that it's because of mother's prayers and cries that she said, my sons should get cloth and shelter so that they can think about God. To Thakur, she prayed and cried. So, this incident actually led to the creation of Velur Math and Ramakrishna Mission. So, it's all because of Ma's blessings and that prayers and cries. So, today we will continue from page 41, that is the exalted state of the mother's mind. From the time of her return to Calcutta from Kamatukul in 1888, her visits to that place were few, although she took care to see that the house that stood in the master's name was kept in good condition. Her time was taken up by frequent visits to and stay at her paternal home at Jairambati and with disciples at Calcutta. Her companions, Yoginma and Gopalma, noticed a great spiritual transformation in her after the master's lifetime. Yoginma noticed that she had become remarkably indrawn and was radiating an unearthly loveliness. During her stay in Calcutta in 1888, she saw the mother in a state of samadhi while meditating on the roof of the Balaram Babu's house. About her experience in that state, the mother said, I found in that state that I had traveled into a distant country. I cannot describe the nature of the ecstatic joy I felt. When my mind came down from that exalted mood, I found my body lying there. I thought, how can I possibly enter this ugly body? I could not at all persuade my mind to do so. After a long while it did, and the body became conscious again. Another day she was meditating in the house of Nilambar Mukherjee along with Yoginma and Gopalma. After finishing her meditation, Yoginma looked at her and found her seated motionless as before, absorbed in the meditation. It took a long time for her mind to come down to physical consciousness, and when it actually regained traces of it, she began to say, O Yogin, where are my hands and feet? Yoginma pressed her limbs and directed her attention to them in a loud voice, but it took much time for her to be conscious of the whole body. Another vision she had was of Sri Ramakrishna getting down into the Ganga and his body dissolving into its sacred waters. She found Narendra taking that water and sprinkling it everywhere. This was a prophetic vision of what was to take place soon of Narendra as Swami Vivekananda spreading the Master's universal message broadcast. The vision created a very vivid impression on her, for it filled her mind with a sense of purpose. She began to see that the Master lived in his mission and that he walked through those whom he made his instruments in its fulfillment. Her own part in it began to draw on her mind little by little. It would thus be seen that the Master's demise, in spite of various worldly difficulties, her mind was getting more and more detached from worldly concerns and was drifting towards samadhi. So long as the Master was alive, serving him in every way filled her life with a meaning. But once he was no more, there was no other definite worldly purpose to hold her consciousness to the body. And samadhi became a more frequent experience with her. Thus, it was the firm view of her close associates like Yoginma that she would have given up her body soon in the absence of a worldly purpose, and her services in the great work of the propagation of the Master's message would not have been available had it not been for certain domestic entanglements that forced her mind back to the world. So that was a huge part and a very, very deep part. So I will end here, and from next meet I'll read from Radhu and her significance in mother's life. So moving forward to Orkoda for the next segment.
Thank you, Ishita. I think we are having a technical problem in my mobile. I think in recording, uh, there are various advertising coming in between. So my particular talk has been, uh, I think, deleted. Anyway, we have to see to that. Now I will read from the book, as yesterday was the birthday of Swami Brahmananda, who was very, very close to Thakur and who happens to be also the first president of the Ramakrishna Avatar. So you can see when you go to Belur Math, the temple of Swami Brahmananda. This is one of the great book that almost all spiritual seekers are asked to read, the eternal companion, life and teachings of Swami Brahmananda. I will read few parts from the introduction and his few teachings, how he used to talk with various devotees. I will try to read from that. To write the biography of an illumined soul is very difficult, if not impossible, for his is preeminently an inner life. True, he may engage in certain external activities, he may achieve the kind of success which impress the outer world, but all these activities and achievements, including even his spoken and written teachings, will fall far short of and fail to express the real man. An ordinary professor or scholar teaches out of his accumulated learning. Such a man's scholarship is far greater than the man himself. That is to say, he may teach the loftiest truths theoretically without having made them a part of his own life and experience. A man of spiritual wisdom also teaches these truths not theoretically, but out of his own experience. Nevertheless, the expression of this truth in words cannot possibly correspond to the vastness of his inner knowledge, which is inexpressible because it is transcendental. We know a man with our mind and senses, but our mind and senses cannot reveal to us the nature of an illumined soul. In order to be fully able to understand such a soul, a man must himself be illumined. When you go into the presence of one of these great beings, something very wonderful happens. His mere presence gives you, as it were, a super sense which enables you to recognize the greatness which is in him. Maharaj, as Swami Brahmananda was called, used to give us that super sense wherever we were with him. Our minds were lifted up and caught glimpses of his inner nature, but these glimpses were only partial. We were aware that the other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who were themselves illumined souls, could see more in Maharaj than we, his disciples, ever saw. Swami Ramakrishnananda, founder and head of the Ramakrishna Math in Madras, once introduced Maharaj to the devotees there, saying, "None of you have seen Sri Ramakrishna himself, but now you see Maharaj, and that is the same thing." On another occasion, a devotee brought fruit which he wanted to offer to Sri Ramakrishna in the shrine. Swami Ramakrishnananda told him to offer it to Maharaj and said, "To offer this fruit to Maharaj is as good as offering it to Sri Ramakrishna." It was the first part from the introduction. I think we will continue this book in our future meets as well, because this book is very important. You can see what Raja Maharaj was. In few words, we have seen in which light devotees of Thakur used to see Raja Maharaj. Now I'll read a few of his teachings. Belur Math, 10 May 1913. By holy company, it is not sufficient to merely visit the holy man now and then. You must observe their lives, receive instruction from them, and mold your life accordingly. The great barrier that obstructs your correct vision of God is the doubt and confusion in your mind. They haunt the mind, swing it to and fro, and lead it to run after diverse objects. Drive them out with their sharp sword of discrimination. If you are not able to do so by your own strength, seek the aid of those who are adepts in doing it, the sadhus. A beginner should sit beside holy men and listen to them with profound attention and retain their words of counsel in his memory. But it must not end there. He must try to realize what he learns from them. Bear in mind that neither talking nor learning nor study will lead you to realization. You will have to practice and live what you hear and learn. But that is not at all possible without brahmacharya and sadhana. If you have the desire to turn your mind to God and realize Him, your sadhana must go hand in hand with brahmacharya. Many attempt to realize God by studying the scriptures, but they do not know that without brahmacharya and sadhana, no one can catch the spirit of the scriptures, much less realize God. Read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and such other books and try to live according to their teachings. The more you read, the more light you will find in them. The knowledge of God derived from hearers is quite different from that acquired by practicing sadhana. This again differs widely from the realization you acquire after God realization. We keep up to this. We have just read few portions from this book. The very advices that Swami Brahmananda ji gave to the devotees for the development of spiritual seeking. We also learned many things today. May we all practice those teachings in our everyday life. That is the only prayer that we do to Thakur Ma and Swamiji. Today we end our meet with this. Maybe in the coming meets we'll also start new books and other members will also join in. Thank you to all the members who have joined in today. Jai Thakur, Jai Swamiji, Jai Ma. Om Shanti 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 Hare Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Ishita, kindly end the talk. I could not end the talk due to some internal error. Thank you.